educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work podcast, where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
I thank you very much for tuning in today. I think we're going to have some fun on this show today. I have a professional proofreader, an editor, and writer. He also runs an editing and writing agency. He helps businesses improve their written content to attract more people to their websites and convert them into new clients. A lot of us that are starting new businesses, sometimes we don't understand what we need to write, how we need to write it, how to make it persuasive, whatever it is. And maybe our guest today can kind of maybe give a few little pointers, so that way we don't feel stressed out or under the gun, whatever it is, because we're looking to make money or support our family or make a change in our community. So I thank y'all very much for listening to That Will Never Work podcast. And now I introduce to you none other than the professional proofreader, editor, and writer, John. John, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Maurice. I'm excited to be here today.
Cool. So, John, you listen to me, talk about the stressors of being a writer, and I know for myself, because I do my own websites, I look into my own ebooks and things like that, and I don't consider myself a writer, So how could someone be encouraged to say, hey, you know what, maybe I need to at least start the process, talk to you later on to proof it for me, get to another level. But what can I do to encourage myself to even just put pen to paper?
Well, there's a couple things. So first of all, let me throw a stat at you that might get your attention. So I literally heard this morning and I just wanted to pass it along. So if you have a blog associated with your business website, that increases your chances of ranking higher in Google by 434%.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. I was amazed at that. So Is writing still important? Is a blog still important? I'm going to say yes. Can that help your business grow? I'm going to say yes.
Right.
So to your point, like, okay, well, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I'm not a good writer. What do I do? So let me just give you the 3 things that you can do right now to increase your blog's traffic and effectiveness. So let's say you've got a bunch of posts that you want to go edit, or maybe you're just starting, you just want to write some posts. There's 3 things you can do right now to make those posts better. And I think this will help guide your train of thought. So the first one is make sure that your introductions hook the reader. So you don't just want to start getting into whatever you're talking about. Take those first couple sentences, relate a story, share. I just shared a statistic, right? That was my intro. That was my hook. And now you're paying attention, right? Do the same thing with your blog posts and your writing. So again, could be a story. It could be a startling statistic. It could be a controversial statement that you're going to back up as you write your article. So whatever it is, give them something to latch onto. And so number 2, after that, make sure you use headers and make sure those headers tell the reader about the flow of your article. And here's why that's important. Something like 16% of people visiting your website read it word for word the first time through. The rest of us, and I say us because I do the same thing, right? We scan it. We're just kind of like flipping through on our phone. What is this guy going to be talking about? So if you can use those headers, knowing this, you have an advantage. You can kind of guide them, say, okay, these are the things we're going to be talking about. This is how I can help you. This is how I can answer your question. Use those headers for that. And then finally, 3 is whatever you're writing, and I don't care if it's a social media post, a blog post, a newsletter, an email, always end with a call to action. So I'm going to tell you something else that but we don't think about, and that's that none of us has ESP. So I can't look into your brain, and I don't know what you want me to do after I read your email. I really don't. But you need to tell me just flat out, hey, do you want to learn more about this? Click here to book a call. click here to read this article, click here to get whatever it happens to be for you. Make sure you include that, and make sure, especially if let's say you have a 5-year-old blog post, make sure that call to action is still valid, right? Maybe it's to a call to action you don't even do anymore, and you forgot to update it. That's not a great customer experience. So again, 3 things you can do right now to increase your writing and make it better. Make sure you have those good, solid introductions and hooks. Make sure those headers are in place and tell the reader what to expect, and then have that call to action that tells us what to do next. So if you just incorporate even those 3 things, that's going to take you to another level, like immediately.
So John, I'm not creative. I don't have imagination. I'm not sure how to create a hook, without trying to quote unquote borrow someone else's, hook. So how can I create one if I really feel as though I'm not imaginative enough?
I'm going to disagree with you, and I'm going to say, please borrow. I borrow all the time. It's okay. No, obviously you don't want to plagiarize. You don't want to pass off someone else's work as your own. But that stat I talked about, the 434%, I didn't make that up. That came from Opt-in-Monster, and I heard it on a webinar.
Right.
So be on the lookout, right? Like that's what I've trained myself to do is, that's a stat I can use. Like we're peeking behind the curtain now. I'm just being honest with you guys. Like I have notes up, right? I literally have notes up on my side of the screen that I am referring to, like, because I can't remember all that stuff either.
Right.
So yeah, but by all means, borrow things that work. Go out and read other blogs that you enjoy and go, why do I enjoy that? What is it about that makes me enjoy that? And how can I do that same thing? And as far as creativity, if you can develop a sense for whatever your product or service is, it's probably very internalized to you. It probably connects with some problem or story or life event that you have had, because that's probably how you came up with that idea in the first place. So think about how you can tie that in. So I think, I don't know if I'm the most creative person either, but I think it's just learning those little tips and tricks of just thinking about it in a certain way. And yes, borrowing and stealing as well.
And I asked that question because a lot of times you get the sense that, hey, you don't want to do that, because you're not sure if stuff is copywritten, trademarked, whatever, because it seems like everybody's trying to trademark just the most simplest things right now, or the simplest things are copywritten. So you're not sure what you can or can't use. So I think sometimes some of us may tend to, think that, hey, we can't borrow this idea, thought, even a phrase, and use it in our own terms.
Yeah. And I think as far as written content goes, if you have that feeling, if you feel like, am I kind of crossing the line, you know what, just reference them, just add a link to where you got it from, and just say, source, see here, whatever. Like, make it clear that I am borrowing this from an authoritative source. And in fact, here's that authoritative. And that actually is a really good SEO tip just in general anyway, is if you can link to those authoritative sources, that's going to help your reader. It's going to help your SEO positioning, and you're not going to have to worry about coming across as someone who's plagiarizing something. So there's really no downside, I think, to doing that.
So now I just mentioned I'm not creative, and I'm a little nervous about referencing another individual. Now, what if I decide to use AI in that situation? What are your thoughts on something like AI?
Well, AI is a can of worms. So let me caveat this with, my crystal ball is in the shop right now. So I can't actually see the future.
Right.
Maybe when I get it back, I'll be able to, right? But it's been in the shop for a while now. So we're all kind of going on guesses and hunches, right?
Right.
But here's one thing I will say about AI, and as a content creator myself, AI is super useful for a few things. So let's talk about, not feeling very creative. Sometimes it is a huge obstacle to go from a blank page to something on the page.
Right.
That's where AI can help you. AI is amazing at helping you brainstorm, helping you come up with potentially outlines for your blog post or article. It can do that fairly well. Suggesting maybe some keywords, although it's not going to have done the research, but it might just get the creative juices flowing. It does all those things really well. What it doesn't do well, and I don't think that it can do well,
Hmm.
is it can't produce content that people want to read.
Hmm.
So why is that the case? It's because ultimately AI is not a person.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm.
people want to read and engage with things that make people excited and interested in them.
Mm-hmm.
That means personal stories. That means, throwing in a joke maybe when it's appropriate, or like
Mm-hmm.
saying something controversial, as I mentioned before, and then backing it up. AI can't do any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
It's specifically trained to provide the most middle of the road answer it can possibly come up with.
Mm.
It can't tell a joke as far as I have ever seen. It doesn't know how to create a really good introduction. Like
Mm-hmm.
it, I joke like if you come across an article that AI wrote, it sounds like a bored high schooler had to write this
Mm.
essay and like didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to do it but had to do it for a grade, so they just kind of did it.
Right.
I don't think that's the image of your brand or your company that you want to
Mm-hmm.
project.
Mm-hmm.
So use AI where it makes sense. Don't outsource your writing to it in total. And please, 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 for the love of all that is good and holy, don't outsource your thinking to it, right? Use it as a tool, but then do your own thinking, do your own writing.
And because you hear a lot right now how AI is built into your browser, is built into your phone. Like Apple just done this update where it's built into your phone. The next update, iOS update. So AI is everywhere, and so unfortunately, it's going to be harder for us to transition out of that and stay authentic, stay genuine, because everyone's probably asking the same AI the same questions. Especially if we are borrowing an idea from someone else. So
Yeah.
so how important will it be? And I understand your crystal ball is in the shop and it might not come out anytime soon. But how important is that going to be in the future for us to continue to stay authentic? Because it seems like almost everybody has a book, everybody has an ebook, everybody has a workbook, that type of thing. So how important is that going to be for us to be authentic and show our genuine selves?
I think it's going to become more important. So will there be a segment of the population that is fine with reading AI content? Yeah, probably,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. Those people may not be reading your content anyway. I don't know. Will there be a non-zero percentage of the population who wants human authentic content?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just blog posts, by the way. Like me personally, I don't want to listen to AI generated music. I want a person who wrote
Mm-hmm.
that music because I want a connection. So
Mm-hmm.
there will be people like me who want that and seek that out. And so I think it's going to be incredibly and increasingly important. So if you think about Google, how they rate things and how they rank things, how you get your content on page one,
Mm-hmm.
they have a formula called EEAT:
Mm-hmm.
experience, expertise, authority, and trust. So you are going to be extremely hard pressed to get all four of those markers
Mm-hmm.
from purely AI generated content because they're weighted towards human beings who have experiences and who have, expertise and
Mm-hmm.
authority and trust. Like, how do you build trust with a computer?
Right.
I don't know how to do that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know that what AI tells me is true. I have to verify that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, in the long term, I think, I again, no crystal ball, but I think that, or I hope, let's say
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
hope that we all learn how to use AI to help us do things better.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope that we learn enough about AI to realize that it shouldn't take over.
So, and here's the reason I'm asking how important will that be? Because we're constantly being compared to by someone else. Whether it's someone else comparing us, but more importantly, we compare ourselves, especially with social media or whatever else. And sometimes AI will utilize that same idea, the same metric, whatever it might be, for us to repeat in order for us to quote unquote become viral, become important, things like that. And so that's the reason why I asked that question, because I think a lot of us are in a copycat space, one. And number two, if you think about for those individuals that might that have their 9 to 5, and their supervisor says, hey, duplicate what I'm doing. If you want to be successful, do what I do, because so you can move up the corporate ladder, things like that. A lot of times we don't even know who we are, and to find our own voice, even when it comes down to something as simple as writing our name. So
yeah, well, so as an entrepreneur though, and maybe those of your readers, those of your listeners, I'm all in the content mode.
Right.
Those of your listeners who are maybe just starting out on that journey or thinking about it. I've been on this road for a bit now, and what a great way to learn who you are, to be an entrepreneur. And so what I say is, of course, you have to borrow things from people because people are further down the road than you. And like I can cut time off of my path by borrowing what works from other people. But I'm not trying to copy them as much as I'm trying to use their tools and systems and processes to broadcast to the world who I am and what my value is, what my unique proposition is. So I would just encourage all of your listeners, you have value, you have a uniqueness as a person that's important, and you can use that while still borrowing tools and tips and tricks. You don't have to copy someone else. You can take them as inspiration, but like you matter. I don't know how else to say that. You matter, you're important, you have value. Even as an entrepreneur, like you do.
So now you've mentioned the blog, and how that can grow my audience one way or another. So do you have an idea, in what you heard, did they reference any blog websites that maybe someone might want to venture into? I mean, I could think of two off the top of my head, being medium.com or Tumblr, but any other places that might assist us in growing our listenership or whatever it might be.
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, Medium can be an option. I have a Medium account, but I use it for personal writing only. So I don't, it's not helping my business, but it's just kind of a fun outlet that I have. LinkedIn is another great place you can look. So LinkedIn has a new feature called newsletters where you can write there. And anytime someone connects with you, you can give them that chance to connect them that way and read your newsletter. I am a big fan of just having the blog on your website. That's where mine is, because ultimately that's where I'm trying to get my readers to go, is to go visit me on my website, learn about me, book a call, and then let me help them make their own content better. So, I would say no matter what, always have it on your own website. Also, another important thing to remember is if you put something on Medium or LinkedIn, those can absolutely work. And again, I'm using both of those. But you don't own that content, they do. It can go away in a heartbeat. But if it's on your website, guess what? Right. I own the content on my website. It's going to be there as long as I decide it's there. And, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever, can't do anything about it. So it's just pros and cons, right? There's definitely pros with with branching out. So definitely look into it. But there's also cons and vice versa.
So because I know for myself personally, I've been looking into Medium, to start a blog. I mean, I'm already on Tumblr, and I haven't really used it to the best of my ability because I'm not a writer. Again, like I said, I'm not a writer. But I heard the same stat where not that particular one, but hey, that can increase my listenership being, for the podcast, or just people becoming more interested, things like that. But also, here's the other part of that. And why I have not ventured all the way into writing, because everyone looks at video. You get the sense that people aren't reading as much they might have maybe 5 minutes ago. So why would I even venture into writing if I get the impression that people aren't reading as much as they used to?
Yeah. So let me give you some stats on that. So this is from WordPress. So this is just WordPress sites. This doesn't include any other blogging sites out there. So just one of them. Granted, it's probably the biggest one. There's still 600 million blogs on the web today. WordPress still starts 500 new websites every single day. So there's still clearly people who want to have that voice. There's 70 million new posts every month and 409 million visitors to those posts. So there's just WordPress alone, 409 million visitors each month. And a recent study showed that 21% of internet users in the United States have read a month. So are people reading less? I would say, unfortunately, that's true. I wish it weren't true because I love to read.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that they're reading none. And just to speak to the video aspect, I think it's easy to have that dichotomy of I either have to do video or I have to do written content, and I can't do both. But there's actually no law against that. It's not illegal. Anybody can do both. So here's how I approach it. I have a foundation of written content. It's on my website. It's on social media. From that written content, let's say from one blog post, I can write an infinite number of social media posts. I can write scripts for several YouTube videos. I can make who knows how many YouTube shorts and Facebook reels with that content. It's just a repository where you can just kind of keep going back to that well over time. So to me, it's not an either or, it's a both and. Have that good quality foundation of written content and then use it, repurpose it, throw it on YouTube. Why not? Like there's no downside to doing that.
So, and I brought that up because one, like I said, you hear that people aren't reading as often, but in most cases, you hear that people are really pressing for individuals to do video, I feel like almost exclusively, like you're not doing anything else but video. And from what you're saying or expressing to us today, that the written form is still just as important. It's just not pushed in our faces as often, but it's just still as important as a video may be.
I believe so. So let me give you an example, actually. So my son, he's 15 now, but when he was about 10, he got real into the Rubik's Cubes, right? And so he wanted to learn how to solve So that I had flashbacks. So when I was a kid, this is obviously well before YouTube. I won't say how many decades, but I will say decades. My brother brought home a book that explains to you in written format how to solve a Rubik's Cube. Do you know how hard it is to solve a Rubik's Cube trying to read a book about it? It's almost impossible. But I was able to, once my 10-year-old, we just found a YouTube video and I had that thing, I could solve it in like an hour. Really? And now I can solve it just fine. Yeah. So there's an example of where video is the preferred medium. If you want to learn a Rubik's Cube, don't read a book, go watch a video. Yeah. But let's say that I want to learn more about you and I want to learn the services you provide. And you've got a bunch of YouTube content. I might watch some of that to get a feel for who you are as a person. Right. But if I really want to dig into your products and services, I want to go to your website. I want to read about it because it's honestly more efficient. I can read about your products and services much, much faster than I can wade through however many YouTube videos to try to find that information. Right. So again, to me, it goes back to that both and. There are times when video is going to help your customer or potential customer more, and there's times when written content is going to do that. It's just knowing that that's true and trying to suss out which is which.
Wow, John. That's a lot of information that you've given. I have a question though. One last question. Where can they go to your proofreading university? Oh yeah. And for those of you who don't know, please visit what John is going to tell you, so you understand, and reach out to him and let him know exactly what that is. But John, where can he find you?
Yeah, so there's two ways to find me. So it's two different kind of people I'm talking to now. So here's the first kind of people. If you have been listening to me and are saying to yourself, boy, how do I get started doing what John's doing? How do I edit? How do I proofread? Because I would really like to do that. Check out proofreadinguniversity.com. That's where I have just basically done a brain dump of everything I know about how to do what I do. So if you're an entrepreneur or thinking about how to have that side gig and that's interesting to you, proofreadinguniversity.com. Check that out. Now, here's the second listener type. If you have written content or want to have written content like a blog or a newsletter, and you just need help, you're not creative or you don't feel like you are, I would disagree, but say you don't feel like you're creative or you don't have the greatest command of grammar or whatever it might be, go to cedarpressproofreading.com. That's my editing website.
Mm-hmm.
You can, read a bunch of blogs. You can read about me. You can actually book a call with me. It's as simple as clicking a button.
Mm-hmm.
And we can have a wonderful conversation, just like I'm having with Maurice. I'll have the same conversation with you, and we'll just see if we can help each other out. So there you go. 2 different options for 2 different listener types.
And so, of course, if you're riding your bike while you're listening to this, you're, on the treadmill, you're in the car, of course, this information will be in the show notes. So, just whenever you settle down, just click on that link and it will be right there for you. So, but John, thank you very much for coming on the show today. I appreciate you. Now, but John, before I let you go, I got my very last question, which is my world famous question that I ask everybody. My would you rather question. Would you rather choose 3 doors or a fork in the road?
I think I would rather choose, I don't know, we'll go 3 doors.
Well, and let me back up. There's no parameters in your answer. And there's no right or wrong. So however you answer, you answer. So what's your choice? 3 doors still?
3 doors, yeah.
And so why 3 doors?
Because there is almost always more than 1 or 2 ways to accomplish anything. And if I can go through 1 door, it might not work. I'll go try another door. I'll go try 100 doors till I find the right one. So I'm not going to limit myself to 2 choices.
So, you know what's funny? I've been asking this question for about 3 years now. And it's funny, I have so many different answers and responses. Now, you are only the second person, but you're the second person within this last calendar year that says it's more than 2 choices. It's only been 2 of you out of everybody else. Everybody else just answered the question directly, not saying, hey, because I did say there are no parameters, right? So that means that, so think outside the box, to get to whatever your destination is, your goal, whatever it is, your journey, however you view it. So I thank you very much for even enlightening us, because you said, hey, it's 100 doors, not just 3.
That's right. Back to the podcast right there.
Right. And now, side note on that, when you said 100 doors, I don't know if you've seen the TV show Dark Matter. But
I have not.
Okay. So in Dark Matter, somebody made a box. It's like a portal to other different worlds that, of versions of themselves. And so when you think about 100 doors, it makes me think of how many other different versions of myself are behind each one of those doors, where I might have made a decision to go right, left, up, down, whatever it might have been. So with you saying that, it just made me think about that TV show. So for those of you who looked at Dark Matter, please, in the comments, let John know what your thoughts are, in reference to his would you rather not question. But John, thank you very much for coming on the show.
You are so welcome, Maurice.
Sure. And I thank y'all very much for listening to us. Make sure that you link to all his information in the link below, and make sure that you continue to listen and subscribe. Thank you very much for listening to That Will Never Work, and I will talk to you a little later.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at Chisholm Group LLC, and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work, or will it?